What'd you do if your own sister stole your inheritance right from under your nose? Well, I found out exactly what kind of person she really was, and let me tell you, my revenge was absolutely perfect. By the time I was done, she lost everything she thought she'd won, and so much more. This is a story about family, greed, and the most satisfying revenge I've ever witnessed. And trust me, you'll want to hear every single detail. Let me start from the beginning. My name is Sarah, and this story involves my older sister Jessica, who I thought I knew my entire life. Boy, was I wrong. Growing up, Jessica and I were particularly close, but we weren't enemies either. She was always the golden child, straight A's, perfect job, married her college sweetheart, had 2 beautiful kids. Meanwhile, I was the creative one, which in my family was code for disappointment. I worked as a freelance graphic designer, never married, lived in what my mother called a tiny apartment that doesn't even have a proper dining room. But there was one person who never made me feel like a failure, my grandmother, Nana Rose. Nana Rose was my father's mother, and she was absolutely incredible. While my parents were busy praising Jessica's achievements, Nana Rose would sit with me for hours, listening to my ideas, encouraging my art, and telling me stories about her own adventures as a young woman. She was a successful businesswoman back in the 1960s, which was practically unheard of, and she built a small empire of rental properties across the city. When Nana Rose was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer at 84, our whole family was devastated. But I was the one who stepped up. I was the one who drove her to every doctor's appointment, stayed overnight at the hospital during her treatments, and moved into her house during her final months to take care of her. Jessica? She visited twice. Twice in 6 months. And both times, she spent most of the visit on her phone, dealing with important work calls. During those final months, Nana Rose and I grew even closer. She told me about her business strategies, her regrets, her dreams. And she made it very clear that she wanted me to have her house, the beautiful Victorian home where she'd lived for 40 years, worth about $800,000 in today's market. Sarah, she said to me one evening as we sat on her porch swing, this house needs someone who will love it the way I have. Someone who understands that a home isn't just about money, it's about memories, about dreams, about building something meaningful. Promise me you'll take care of it. I promised her with tears in my eyes. Nana Rose passed away peacefully on a Tuesday morning in October. I was holding her hand. Jessica didn't make it to the hospital in time because she was at her son's soccer tournament and couldn't just leave in the middle of the game. The funeral was beautiful. I organized everything, just the way Nana Rose would have wanted. The whole family was there, sharing memories and celebrating her incredible life. A week after the funeral, we all gathered at the lawyer's office for the reading of the will. I wasn't expecting much, maybe some jewelry, some family photos. I knew Nana Rose had promised me the house verbally, but I figured she probably never got around to actually putting it in writing. The lawyer, Mr. Henderson, was an older gentleman who had been Nana Rose's attorney for over 20 years. He adjusted his glasses and began reading. To my granddaughter Jessica Miller, I leave my collection of china and crystal, valued at approximately $15,000. Jessica smiled politely. To my granddaughter Sarah Chan, I leave my house at 1247 Maple Street, along with all its contents, valued at approximately $800,000. The room went completely silent. I felt like I couldn't breathe. Jessica's face went white, then red, then white again. I'm sorry, Jessica said, her voice shaking slightly, could you repeat that? Mr. Henderson repeated it. The house was mine. Everything was mine. My parents looked shocked but pleased. My dad squeezed my shoulder and whispered, she always said you were special to her, sweetheart. But Jessica looked like she was about to explode. After we left the lawyer's office, Jessica cornered me in the parking lot. This is ridiculous, Sarah. You can't seriously accept this inheritance. What do you mean? I asked, still in shock myself. I mean, it's not fair. I'm the older sister. I have a family to provide for. You don't even have kids, what do you need with a big house like that? You should split it with me. It's the right thing to do. I stared at her in disbelief. Jessica, Nana Rose specifically wanted me to have this house. She told me so herself, multiple times. Oh, please. She was dying and probably confused. Besides, you obviously manipulated her into changing her will. You spent all that time with her, filling her head with sob stories about your struggling artist lifestyle. That's when I realized what was really happening. Jessica hadn't cared about Nana Rose when she was alive, but now that there was money involved, suddenly she was concerned about fairness. I'm not giving you half the house, Jessica. This is what Nana Rose wanted. We'll see about that, she said, and walked away. I should have known she wouldn't give up that easily. Over the next few weeks, Jessica launched a full-scale campaign to convince me to share the inheritance. She called me daily, sent long emails about family loyalty, and even got our parents involved. Sarah, honey, my mother said during one particularly uncomfortable dinner, maybe Jessica has a point. It does seem like a lot of money for one person. Mom, it's not about the money. It's about honoring Nana Rose's wishes. But think about Jessica's children. Your nephew and niece could use that money for college funds. I felt like I was going crazy. Since when did my family care so much about fairness? Where was this concern when Jessica got a full scholarship to college and I had to take out loans? Where was this fairness when my parents paid for Jessica's wedding but I was told I'd have to fund my own someday? But I held firm. The house was mine, and I was going to honor Nana Rose's wishes. That's when Jessica decided to get nasty. First, she hired a lawyer to contest the will. She claimed that I had exercised undue influence over Nana Rose and that the will should be invalidated. Then, she started spreading rumors around our extended family. Suddenly, cousins who hadn't spoken to me in years were calling to express their concern about how I'd taken advantage of a dying old woman. But the worst part was what she did to Nana Rose's house. I had moved in temporarily while I figured out my long-term plans. The house needed some work, new roof, updated electrical, fresh paint, but it was structurally sound and absolutely beautiful. One morning, I woke up to find my front yard completely destroyed. Someone had driven across the lawn in the middle of the night, leaving deep tire tracks and destroying the flower garden that Nana Rose had spent decades cultivating. A few days later, someone threw eggs at the front windows. Then, someone called the city to file false complaints about the property, claiming it was uninhabitable and a danger to the neighborhood. I couldn't prove it was Jessica, but I knew it was her. This was exactly the kind of passive-aggressive psychological warfare she'd specialized in since we were kids. But Jessica made one crucial mistake. She got greedy. See, while she was busy trying to destroy my life, I was doing some investigating of my own. And what I discovered was absolutely incredible. It started when I was going through some of Nana Rose's old papers, trying to organize everything for the lawyers handling the will contest. I found a box in the attic filled with financial documents going back decades. Most of it was boring stuff, old tax returns, bank statements, insurance policies. But there was one folder that caught my attention. It was labeled Jessica, College Fund. Inside, I found something that made my blood run cold. Nana Rose had been secretly funding Jessica's life for years. The full scholarship Jessica got to college? Nana Rose had quietly paid the remaining costs, about $40,000 over 4 years. The down payment for Jessica's house? Another $80,000 from Nana Rose. The business loan that helped Jessica's husband start his consulting company? That was Nana Rose too, $150,000. When Jessica's son needed surgery a few years ago and she was stressed about the medical bills, Nana Rose covered the entire $25,000 cost. All told, over the past 15 years, Nana Rose had given Jessica nearly $300,000. And Jessica had never mentioned any of this to anyone. The family believed she was completely self-sufficient, the perfect successful daughter who never needed help from anyone. But wait, it gets better. As I dug deeper into the financial records, I found something else. Jessica hadn't just been receiving money from Nana Rose, she'd been asking for it. Demanding it, actually. There were dozens of letters from Jessica to Nana Rose, and they were enlightening. Dear Nana, I know I haven't visited much lately, but I'm really struggling with the mortgage payments. Could you help us out with just $5,000? I promise I'll pay you back. Nana, the kids need new clothes for school and money is tight. Could you send $2,000? Thanks so much, you're the best. Hi Nana, sorry I missed your birthday party, but work has been crazy. By the way, could you lend us $15,000 for a new car? Ours is completely unreliable. Letter after letter, year after year. Always asking for money, always with some excuse for why she couldn't visit or call or spend time with the woman who was bankrolling her entire life. And the most disgusting part? In several of the letters, Jessica actually complained about me. I hope Sarah isn't bothering you too much with her visits. I know she can be overwhelming sometimes. I'm glad you enjoy Sarah's company, but I hope you're not feeling obligated to listen to all her problems. Jessica had been trying to turn Nana Rose against me while simultaneously draining her bank account. But the absolute worst letter was dated just 3 months before Nana Rose's death. Dear Nana, I've been thinking about your estate planning, and I really think you should reconsider leaving everything to Sarah. She's not responsible enough to handle that kind of money, and honestly, she's never done anything to earn it. I know I haven't been able to visit as much as I'd like, but that's only because I've been working so hard to build a stable life for my family. Doesn't that count for something? Please think about this carefully. Love, Jessica. I sat in Nana Rose's kitchen, holding this letter, feeling absolutely furious. Jessica had been manipulating our dying grandmother right up until the end, trying to convince her to change her will while simultaneously playing the victim to our entire family. And now she had the audacity to accuse me of undue influence? That's when I decided Jessica needed to learn a lesson about consequences. I spent the next 2 weeks making copies of everything. Every letter, every bank transfer, every financial record that showed the true extent of Jessica's secret relationship with Nana Rose. Then I did something that Jessica never expected. I called a family meeting. I invited everyone, our parents, our aunts and uncles, our cousins, even Jessica's in-laws. I told them I had some important information to share about Nana Rose's estate and that I thought everyone should hear it together. Jessica was suspicious, but she couldn't really refuse to attend without looking guilty. The meeting was at my parents' house on a Sunday afternoon. Everyone gathered in the living room, and Jessica sat there looking smug, probably thinking I was about to announce that I'd decided to share the inheritance after all. Thank you all for coming, I said, standing in front of the room with a thick folder in my hands. I know there's been some concern about Nana Rose's will and whether her final wishes were really her own idea. I think it's time everyone knew the full truth about Nana Rose's relationship with our family. I opened the folder. Over the past 15 years, Nana Rose gave Jessica nearly $300,000 in financial support. This includes college expenses, house down payment, business loans, medical bills, and dozens of smaller payments. The room was dead silent. Jessica's face had gone completely white. I have copies of all the bank transfers and all the letters Jessica sent to Nana Rose requesting this money. Would anyone like to see them? I started passing around the documents. I watched as my family members read Jessica's letters, their expressions changing from confusion to shock to disgust. My mother was the first to speak. Jessica, is this true? Did you really take all this money from Nana Rose? Jessica stammered something about family helping family and loans that she was planning to pay back, but everyone could see the truth in the documents. Then my dad read the letter where Jessica had tried to convince Nana Rose to disinherit me. Jessica Marie, he said in the voice he used to use when we were in serious trouble as kids, this is absolutely shameful. How could you write something like this about your own sister? But I wasn't done yet. There's more, I said. Jessica has been telling everyone that I manipulated Nana Rose into changing her will. But according to these financial records, Nana Rose's will has been the same for over 10 years. She always intended to leave me the house. The only thing that changed was Jessica's behavior when she realized she wasn't getting what she wanted. I pulled out one more document, a letter that Nana Rose had written to her lawyer, dated 2 years before her death. This is a letter from Nana Rose to Mr. Henderson, explaining exactly why she made the choices she did in her will. I read it aloud. Dear Mr. Henderson, I want to put in writing my reasoning for my estate planning decisions, in case there are ever any questions after my passing. I am leaving my house to Sarah because she is the only member of my family who has ever spent time with me without asking for money. Jessica is a lovely girl, but our relationship has always been transactional. I have given her nearly $300,000 over the years, which I consider her inheritance. Sarah has given me something much more valuable, her time, her attention, and her genuine love. She has earned this house through her devotion, not through manipulation. Anyone who suggests otherwise doesn't know the full story. By the time I finished reading, Jessica was crying. But they weren't tears of sadness, they were tears of rage and humiliation. This is ridiculous, she said, standing up abruptly. You're all acting like I committed some kind of crime. Families help each other. That's what families do. Families also spend time together, said my Aunt Carol quietly. Families show up. Families don't just ask for money and then disappear. And families don't try to manipulate dying grandmothers into changing their wills, added my Uncle Dave. Jessica looked around the room, realizing that everyone was seeing her clearly for the first time. This is unbelievable. I'm being attacked for accepting help from my own grandmother while Sarah gets rewarded for, what? Being unemployed and having nothing better to do than hang around a sick old woman? The silence that followed was deafening. Jessica, my mother said slowly, did you just call your grandmother a sick old woman? I think that's when Jessica realized she'd gone too far. But it was too late. One by one, our family members started to leave. They didn't say much, but the looks they gave Jessica said everything. Her mother-in-law was particularly cold. I think we should probably head home now, Jessica. We have a lot to discuss. Within a week, the consequences of Jessica's behavior started to catch up with her. First, her lawyer dropped the will contest. Apparently, when presented with evidence of the $300,000 Jessica had already received from Nana Rose, plus her own letters trying to manipulate our grandmother, he advised her that she had no case and would likely be ordered to pay my legal fees if she continued. Then, her husband's business partner called an emergency meeting. It turned out that Jessica's husband had been bragging about their family wealth and generous grandmother to justify some questionable business decisions. When the partner learned that their startup capital had actually been a secret handout from an elderly woman, he was not pleased. The partnership dissolved within a month. But the real consequences were social. See, our family talks a lot. And the story of Jessica's greed and manipulation spread through our extended family like wildfire. Suddenly, Jessica found herself uninvited from family gatherings. Cousins who used to post pictures with her on social media stopped tagging her. Aunts who used to babysit her kids started making excuses about being too busy. The final blow came at Christmas. Every year, our family has a huge Christmas celebration at my uncle's house. Everyone comes, kids, grandkids, great-grandkids, family friends. It's the highlight of our year. This year, Jessica's family wasn't invited. When she called my uncle to ask why, he was brutally honest. Jessica, after what you did to Nana Rose and to Sarah, I don't think you understand what family really means. Maybe you need some time to think about that. But wait, there's more. Remember how Jessica had been vandalizing my property and filing false complaints with the city? Well, it turns out that Nana Rose's house is in a very nice neighborhood with lots of security cameras. And Jessica wasn't as sneaky as she thought she was. I had footage of her driving across my lawn, throwing eggs at my windows, and even sneaking around my property at night trying to find ways to cause damage. I took all of this footage to the police and filed charges for vandalism and harassment. Jessica was arrested on a Tuesday morning, right in front of her kids' school during drop-off. According to my cousin who lives nearby, it was quite the scene. She ended up pleading guilty to avoid a trial and was sentenced to community service and a restraining order. She also had to pay for all the damage to my property, which came to about $8,000. But the most satisfying revenge of all was completely unintentional. You see, Jessica had built her entire identity around being the successful, responsible, put-together sister. She was the one with the perfect marriage, the beautiful house, the well-behaved children, the thriving career. But when her friends and neighbors learned the truth, that her success had been funded by secretly manipulating an elderly woman, and that she'd been so greedy she'd tried to steal even more money from her own sister, that perfect image crumbled. Her book club kicked her out. Her kids' private school started asking uncomfortable questions about tuition payments. Her country club membership was reviewed and quietly not renewed. Jessica's perfect life, built on a foundation of lies and manipulation, completely fell apart. Meanwhile, I moved into Nana Rose's beautiful house and slowly restored it to its former glory. I converted the sunroom into an art studio and started taking freelance clients again. The house gave me stability and confidence I'd never had before. I also discovered that Nana Rose had left detailed journals about her life and business strategies. Reading them was like getting a masterclass in independence and resilience from beyond the grave. Most importantly, I learned to trust my instincts about people. Nana Rose had seen Jessica's true nature years ago, which is why she made sure to structure her will the way she did. She knew Jessica would show her true colors eventually, and she wanted to make sure I was protected when that happened. As for Jessica, I heard through the family grapevine that she and her husband had to sell their house and move into a much smaller place across town. Her husband's business never recovered from losing that partner, and Jessica had to go back to work full-time for the first time in years. But here's the thing, I don't feel bad about any of it. Jessica made her choices. She chose money over relationships. She chose manipulation over honesty. She chose greed over love. And in the end, those choices cost her everything she thought she valued. Meanwhile, I'm living in the house that Nana Rose always intended for me to have, surrounded by memories of the woman who believed in me when no one else did. Every morning, I sit on that same porch swing where Nana Rose and I used to talk, and I remember her words, "A home isn't just about money, it's about memories, about dreams, about building something meaningful." Jessica never understood that. And that's exactly why she didn't deserve to inherit this house. Sometimes the best revenge is simply living well while other people destroy themselves with their own bad choices. And trust me, I'm living very, very well. So that's my story. My sister tried to steal my inheritance and destroy my life, but in the end, she only destroyed herself. The truth has a way of coming out eventually, and when it does, people show you exactly who they really are. I learned that family isn't just about blood, it's about love, respect, and being there for each other when it matters most. Nana Rose knew that, which is why she made the choices she did. And Jessica? Well, she learned that actions have consequences, even when you think no one is watching. What do you think? Was my revenge justified, or did I go too far? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe. I have plenty more stories about family drama, workplace revenge, and people getting exactly what they deserve. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.